con la guaira, limpia, limpia, taita, vibrando con la hualca.
Hi guys, in this episode of ayahuascapodcast.com, we speak with Tim Laurence. We talk about Hoffman Process, and we try to understand what it is and how it works. We talk about Tim's personal ayahuasca experience and personal growth. We talk about what are the similarities between Hoffman Process and an ayahuasca experience. We talk about several famous people that have experienced Hoffman Process and so much more. I'm sure you will enjoy this episode. Hi guys, and welcome to ayahuascapodcast.com. As always, with you, the host, Sam Believ. Today we're joined by Tim Laurence. Tim Laurence is our guest here at La Guaira Retreat. As you can see in the background is a medicine house that we're currently building. Tim is at our retreat for the second time. When were you here last time?
Exactly a year ago, almost to the day. I think it was one day off, and it will be my anniversary. Exactly
a year ago, and it's actually a very great practice coming, doing ayahuasca once a year. You know, as I say, one apple a day keeps the doctor away. I would say one ayahuasca retreat a year keeps the psychiatrist away. So Tim is not just a guest here. He's a fascinating human being. He's a writer, public speaker, a teacher, and a facilitator. Tim wrote a book called Hoffman Process that has been translated into 7 languages. Tim has been practicing Hoffman Process for the last 30 years, and he is the last person to be trained by Hoffman himself. Correctly?
That's true, yeah. A few years ago, back in the end of the 80s and the early 90s. So I've been doing it for about 30 years now.
Tim, welcome to the podcast. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, like many people who come here or who come to any kind of personal development, I was very interested in knowing more than what is normally provided, you know. And some people get this when they're 55, some people are 25. I got it at about the age of 15, I think. And at the time, it was very easy to get into drugs. And I think I took too much too young. So that didn't help me, except gave me a sort of a sense that there must be something a lot more out there than was being taught in my general education. So I went to India, was there a year, did a lot of Vipassana, but again, around the age of 22, too young to just be sitting, standing still. But I noticed that everything I was interested in at the time was a blend of East and West and seemed to be emanating out of California. So I managed to make my way over there and spent the next 15 years in California learning everything I could, all kinds of different methods. And the Hoffman method is a wonderful synthesis of programs. So it doesn't obviously use plant medicine. Unfortunately, it isn't totally legal in many countries. It uses a variety of, well, maybe, you know, we can get into that later. But you asked about me. I have 2 wonderful boys. They're now both grown up, 26 and 28. Still very much in good terms with my ex-wife who runs Hoffman in the UK. I just love to travel. I always have loved to travel. I love to learn languages. I love to be open and explore.
You mentioned your ex-wife. Is it true that she's a Bond girl?
Yeah, I don't know how much she'd like me to say that. She was a professionally trained RADA, Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, actress, but she happened to be caught kissing in a scene, as it was meant to be, Pierce Brosnan in the 1995 movie GoldenEye.
That's an interesting trivia. And, you know, only 2 kinds of people can date a Bond girl, a Bond himself or a Bond villain. So I'm assuming...
or a wannabe.
Yeah. So, Tim, obviously it's your second time here. This time you've done a couple ceremonies already. First of all, how was your ayahuasca experience so far? And tell us a little bit about your experiences, maybe highlights of that. And then maybe we can talk a little bit about parallels in between the Hoffman process and, let's say, what happens here at the ayahuasca retreat.
Yeah, sure. Because they have kind of the same format, you know, remove yourself from the world, stop your daily routine and just listen. So my experience a year ago was I really wanted to come because I'd had one night on ayahuasca in England and nobody, I think, got very much from it, and we didn't really integrate it or anything afterwards. So when I heard about this and I heard your podcast talking about it, you sounded very, very articulate about it. I researched it, couldn't find anything negative on your reviews. Bit suspect that, but it all seems to be true. And I had a really good time here. We had 4 ceremonies, 2 night and 2 daytime. And we also had the word circles whereby we got to integrate it. And as we went around in a group of 20 or so, we were able, I think, to hear just how different the medicine is for each different person, what it is they're reflecting through their own past, if they have trauma, if they don't have trauma, if they're just having perhaps a wonderful opening, connect to themselves, others, the universe, call it what you will, of their experience. And I relaxed more and more into it. And I remember the 4th time I was just in a state of blissful connection, of oneness throughout. And that stayed with me for a long time. I would say it stayed the whole year. And the memory of this being not just a safe place, but a happy place made me really want to come back and, like a car or something, get a bit of maintenance.
Yeah, it's... I personally drink ayahuasca once a month, but it's only one ceremony. So for obviously not everyone has the luxury of living at an ayahuasca retreat. In that case, when people ask me, how long should my retreat be, or how often should I come? I say, if you have like a big issue you want to resolve, come and do a couple longer retreats. And then when you feel better, just once a year seems to be a very safe amount. It's funny you mentioned the reviews because one girl recently said she was very suspicious as well. So many 5-star reviews. I think we're treading around 350 right now. She basically, after doing her retreat and obviously enjoying it a lot, she said she put us 4-star review, and in the comments said, I would put 10 if possible, but she added 4 stars, so it's
so
a bit less
down
suspicious.
From 5.0 to 4.98 or something.
Yeah, something like that would be nice. It's a good problem to have. So you've been working with this Hoffman method for 30 years. The only thing I know about it is what I learned in preparation for this interview with information you provided. Can you tell listeners a bit more about that method and what drew you to it?
Well, our byline is when you're serious about change. So it's a 7-day intensive retreat where people really go when they're fed up of being fed up, when they've had some issues that come up again and again and again. And usually they hear about it through word of mouth, because on that level of intensity, you kind of want to know somebody who's gone through it in order to be able to trust the various methods. I was attracted to it partly because friends of mine did it. And though I was in a sort of a set of people who emigrated either from Europe or moved from the New York area to the West Coast, we were really interested in what was going to make things change. We were dissatisfied. We wanted to know, was it an Indian guru? Was it a psychedelic substance? Was it a therapy thing? And this method seemed to combine lots of things together. Without going into the methodology, I can say that it looks at the physical, it looks at the emotional, it looks at the intellectual, rational, and it looks at the spiritual. In straight psychology, I was a little frustrated because a lot of it was about what was wrong with us. There was no sort of out there, everything is fine just as it is. In some of the methods, there was too much intellect, the analysis. Some of the things I'd done were pure emotions, which is great, but, you can get out your anger, or you can cry, or you can shout and scream. But I just needed something more to bring it all into place. And I think particularly with Hoffman, it talks about forgiveness. And I think you can get that as well a lot with the plant medicine. I hear a lot of people talking about getting understanding and forgiveness from the person who had issues with them as a child many, many years ago. So we're looking at all of that. I was attracted to it because I myself was suffering. There's a lot of addiction and pain in wanting to get away from pain in my family. My only brother had committed suicide after drugs. So there are many reasons why I got to do it. And we work with people who really want to work, who are dedicated to doing something about it. It's
very interesting because everything you said describing Hoffman method if you would remove Hoffman and said ayahuasca, it was very precise.
It's so similar, isn't it?
It's word of mouth. That's how we get all our people. You'd rather get a referral because it is an intensive process and you want to feel trust in somebody who've done it before. And everything, a complex medicine that goes to spirit, body. The only thing missing is purging.
Yep, yeah, that's true. In fact, in a very early version, because I actually also did quite a bit of research about Bob Hoffman and his life and how he got the process going. In the 60s and 70s, because it started actually in 67, they'd have people, when they were after working through the mother and father, drink, I think, salty water and provide them with a bucket to throw up in. That isn't done anymore. And it is unfortunate in terms of ayahuasca that, and another parallel is lots of people have objections to doing deep work. Lots of people have objections to going away from home and having less contact with the world. But one of the things, ayahuasca, people can have an objection to it purging. When I, had negative associations with purging, but I like the Spanish word for it, isn't it? It's to alleviate, aliviar. And everybody, and certainly myself, felt afterwards, this is just not a normal being sick because you've eaten something bad. This is a wonderful cleansing. The plant medicine helps you. And I'm getting goosebumps when I say that, and I sound like the true converted, but the purging is very much a part of it, isn't it?
Yeah, for those of you who are listening and you haven't done ayahuasca before and you're wondering about that part of the process, sometimes you feel like negativity from your body and the memory, it all comes together into your stomach and it's churning, and you feel like emotional becomes physical, and then you purge it. And as the bodily evacuation leaves your body, you are left with feeling of lightness, and this is why they call it to alleviate in the Colombian ayahuasca tradition. So sometimes when you, after working with ayahuasca for a while and going back to work with, let's say, other plant medicines like mushrooms, in which a lot of times you don't purge, some people report to me that they have missed the purge, because there is definitely something about that transmutation from emotional to physical and then the purge. So, Tim, I'm curious about, you said you were the last to be trained by Bob Hoffman?
Yeah, so he was the man who founded.
How did you meet him?
Process.
That's the question.
Well, he was my teacher on the Hoffman Process, and that was coincidence. Though it was put on every month in the East Bay in Northern California, he for the last few years had been working in Europe and in Australia establishing it. But it was December he'd come back, so he was my teacher, and he was very intuitive, and he encouraged me to apply for the training. And then it just so happened again, the next summer he was done with his traveling, and he trained me. A lot of it was apprenticeship. You were on site learning from the master. And then when I had qualified, we went and taught in Canada a few times. So I got to know him and his method pretty well. And he was very intuitive. I think one of the brilliant things about that was that it wasn't a theory. It wasn't a psychological theory, although it's based on certain things like, look at the dynamics in your family system. He was a fascinating man who kind of didn't know how to handle much technology, but he just had a wonderful spirit, and he'd always be tuning in.
Sounds a bit like a shaman, He's maybe he had some kind of connection to the spirit.
He quite enjoyed being called an urban shaman. He wasn't a sort of out there in the jungle or the desert kind of a shaman, but certainly people. And remember, this was in the Berkeley and San Francisco. There are a lot of people way out there, like Claudio Naranjo, who is known for doing many different things. He's now passed on, but a Chilean psychiatrist who talked a lot about using psychedelics. So he was definitely faced with that. One of his great friends was Leo Zeff, who was later exposed as the chieftain. He was able to turn on thousands of therapists onto LSD in Berkeley. He would just sit with them. So there was a bit of that beyond the mind, very much beyond the mind.
Definitely, I think that's the area where the healing happens.
There was one researcher, but I must look it up if I can find it again, who said that psychedelics, and this is like Hoffman too, allow parts of the mind to talk together that don't usually communicate. And he also used the expression that they flatten the landscape of the mind. And I sort of see that as very bumpy parts in what Michael Pollan, who I think is wonderfully explained things in the book, How to Change Your Mind, he explains that so much of our time is spent in our default modal network. And in Hoffman, in meditation, in plant medicine, you manage to get out of that. Something grabs you and gets you beyond your normal anxiety or depression or fear. And so whatever we can do to help, it's sort of a reduction of the ego, isn't it? It's like the ego is very necessary for getting on in the world, but it so gets in our way.
Yes, I like to explain to patients that come to the retreat is that ego is necessary and it protects you from the outside. Your ego is what brought you here. But as this ego gets constructed and it gets traumatized by, life events, it ends up being this kind of ugly construction. And sometimes you need to dismantle it to reconstruct it, but slightly nicer every time.
Yeah.
And this is where psychedelics come helpful. But ego is very difficult to work with, as I like to use this analogy of a cat trying to put a cat in the bath. It will come up with lots of excuses. So that's why I guess lots of people are so avert to deep work.
Also, I think ego in a spiritual tradition is often sort of ignored or pushed down or, thought of as bad, but it just comes back and bites them in the ass. Look at all the stuff that goes on in spiritual communities or the Catholic Church. You can't get rid of ego, but I think both of our types of work allow us to go softly with self-love and oh yeah, I've got this pattern of behavior. We use the word pattern a lot. Or I've got this thing going on with me. Somebody in the group was saying, people consider me an asshole, but she was saying that with sort of humor and self-love about being able to gently probe that. And I see, myself doing this work as a chance not to be in my ego of I'm a facilitator, I'm the person leading the group. Because when you go up with the wonderful medicine, your ego has to kind of get way, way, way in the background.
Well, I must tell you, Tim, your ego is pretty much in check because it took me a year to learn about who you are and your achievements. And some people would say, my name is Tim, I am the founder, I'm this and that. And you've been very humble about who you are and what you do. And including, I said, Tim, I'm going to introduce you as a writer. And you said, no, I'm not a writer. Yes, you are a writer because you wrote a book and it's a pretty popular book. So my next question is, apparently Hoffman method is pretty popular. And can you tell us about the story about Orlando Bloom and Katy Perry?
Well, as long as they've admitted to doing the process, I can say something, because I knew that Katy Perry, because I've been in quite a few processes where people that she's recommended have done it. And so she's a big champion, and she would send all her friends, some of whom she would pay for to do it as well. What I didn't know was how public Orlando Bloom was about it, but apparently he has come out and said it. And great, if a couple can do it. I don't know so much about their story, but somebody was suggesting that Orlando Bloom did it before, and Katy Perry saw the peace inside of him and said, I'm not used to that, so I better change my own behavior. I don't know if that's true or not. I'd have to sort of see her interviewed for me to be able to say that. But there are a lot of, I don't know, again, it's word of mouth. So a lot of the Hollywood crowd would come and do it in the US. There's a beautiful site in Petaluma in Marin County. And we get a lot of celebrities, but not a lot compared to what it is. It's easier sometimes to get a newspaper mention or a magazine article when they can say, oh, the beautiful Sienna Miller did it, or the wonderful Tandy Newton did it, or whatever. He says, dropping a few names in there.
Well, it's good to have famous people actually promote positive things.
Yeah, because, they've got their reputation, because with this and with my work, it could be seen as pretty wacky, pretty out there. But, if it affected them positively, and they want, as you say, to affect a positive change, good for them.
Kathy and Orlando, if you're listening, you are invited to Lawira. Maybe then they can help us spread the word about, psychedelic renaissance, and that it is medicine, not a drug. They talk about Hoffman method as a non-psychedelic experience.
Yeah, no, it's funny that, and the more I found out about psychedelics, was obviously I knew them as a teenager, and then I left them for a long time, and then I was with the world of Hoffman. The connections are, we both allow people to go way beyond their normal way of seeing things. They can have a vision. We allow people to go beyond their past and forgive. We allow people to drop from their normal mindset and achieve a sense of calm. And at the same time, they may experience great fear on the way to experiencing great joy. The same gate over their heart that has kept them closed from feeling joy it's the same gateway that keeps them imprisoned in anger or sadness can open to joy. So there's a lot to unpack if you're willing to unpack it. Unfortunately, most of the world is happy to keep things very much on the down low, sedated with, the internet, junk food, TV, Netflix, whatever it is.
I shared with you my somewhat crazy idea about combining those kinds of experiences, like Hoffman method or other kinds of self-work group setting events with ayahuasca. For example, I had this idea about maybe using some form of microdosing, whether it be ayahuasca or another psilocybin mushrooms or San Pedro, and then doing the work. If maybe that could be helpful to increase the efficiency or speed of opening up, or maybe depth you can go to. In your opinion, how does this two lines of self-work can be mutually beneficial, whether done together or separately? Let's say doing once a year doing ayahuasca and once a year doing Hoffman method.
Okay, so how are they compatible? Well, firstly, Hoffman, in the countries we do it in, unfortunately, we can't even do microdosing. Did you ever see that program, 9 Perfect Strangers, with Nicole Kidman? That's where she does sort of personal development work and gets them to do lots of stuff about their parents, but then she microdoses them with psilocybin smoothies in the morning. And I joke sometimes at the start of the process, by the way, guys, I'm sorry, you won't be getting any smoothies. What we can do, or what you can do, and what wonderful academy in California is doing, is training people to assist as trained therapists and use psychedelics. And in that, or MDMA or psilocybin, in that, to provide a skillful training to talk with somebody before, to accompany them during, and to help them integrate afterwards the work they need to do, whether it's relationships, whether it's trauma from a war or childhood, or whether it's just needing to unpack the nitty-gritty of life. So I would say it needs to be done skillfully, because as you know, you can't just do this on your own. It really does need guidance.
Yeah, ayahuasca work is extremely powerful, but it is chaotic sometimes, and guidance definitely help. We try and do that by helping people set intentions and integrate that experience in the form of written integration journals and also sharing circles. But yeah, if you could get a professional, that would be nice. 2 episodes ago, if I'm not mistaken, we have interviewed Simon. He's a therapist who came here to Lawira, and he expressed interest in volunteering and doing this kind of work. So, Simon, if you're listening, we still remember about you. So,
I mean, if somebody could come here where it's acceptable, it's legal, and work with people before, during, and after, that would be great. What you do, and I don't think you've given yourself enough credit for it, you model the word circle very well. You and a couple of your assistants will start off the word circle to enable people, as we go around in the group of 20 or so, to speak deeply about their experiences. And in so doing that, they might even not have realized it before. And you also encourage us to journal it, anything that could make it more concrete rather than just, a memory of the night before.
Definitely, we're trying our best and improving gradually. As you can see, this building behind you.
Made huge improvements since last year. You have this huge building here where the ceremonies will be, but also you've got coming up 10 cabins. You've got a wonderful pathway down to the river. You've got loads of stone things. And the food, top notch.
So yeah, from a perspective of somebody who also facilitates the retreats, what do you think about the work we do, or maybe just generally, what do you think is the future of those plant medicines, and how does it make you feel? Like, is it optimistic, or?
I think even in the last few years, we've seen a great acceptance of them. Gabor Mate gets mentioned quite a bit, and his books sell hugely. He has huge turn-ups for his talks and his coaching. I think he does a whole program, and his podcasts, and other people too. And I think, is it legal now in Austria or Portugal, or, it's legal in a religious sense in Brazil and the US. So it becomes more and more normalized. So my hope is that as it becomes more normalized, it becomes more like a ritual, a rite of passage, rather than something weird that we've got to not mention. I like what you said to me once, which is rather than asking somebody, have you ever done ayahuasca, it will turn to, when was the last time you did ayahuasca? But it needs, it does need a bit of public image work, as it were, subtle marketing. But the marketing will be, I suppose, people like you and me telling our friends about it.
Yeah, and also this kind of work, creating content and for people to see more people who have done it before, see that it is actually safe if it's done responsibly, and that you can achieve great results. And another famous person that I've heard about, what happened to Justin Bieber and why he walked away from his Hoffman Process.
We can talk about Justin Bieber because he actually mentioned it in an interview with one of the Vogue international editions. It isn't for everybody, just as this isn't for everybody. You have to come when you're very ready. And I imagine that he wasn't that well prepared for it, or too many people encouraged him because they could perhaps see he was having a really difficult time. And the fact, a major star like that, there's hundreds of people whose income depends upon him. So they wanted perhaps, Justin, please clean up your act. He wasn't ready. It wasn't his thing. I think he walked out he said on the fourth day, because it was just weird for him. And he said, I'd far prefer to go and hang out and hug my wife. We try to vet people as much as we can beforehand. There's an interview, there's something like 8 hours of written work to do that will ask them not to drink or, have too much of a social life right before. We ask them to have a couple of days afterwards. But one thing came from the Justin Bieber disappearance. Other magazines then started saying, calling us the world's toughest therapy. Can you handle the world's toughest therapy? It's not that tough. And actually, we don't even really brand it as therapy. It's personal development, series of structured exercises we really use the day well that may or may not have a positive effect. Of course, we hope they do.
I think I asked all the questions that I wanted to ask. Is there anything else you want to teach us about Hoffman Method, or is there any message you want the audience to walk away with?
I just say, people listening to this podcast or even searching the term personal development, ayahuasca, Hoffman, or whatever, are already interested. At some point, people need to sort of leave getting information and just trust an inner voice, because that's an inner voice that will help them in this work. That inner voice comes beyond just the normal, everyday executive function of the mind. So for all the people out there who are interested in personal development, go with what you want when you're ready. When you're ready, the teacher is there.
Beautiful words. Tim, where can people find about you?
On the internet, hoffmaninstitute.co.uk is our English one, hoffmaninstitute.org for the US, or hoffmaninternational.com for the Hoffman International. It's about 15 countries.
Guys, you've been listening to ayahuascapodcast.com. As always, with you, the host, Sam Believ. Thank you for listening to this episode of ayahuascapodcast.com. Remember to leave us a like and subscribe to us, whatever it is you're listening. By doing so, you're also helping us spread the word about psychedelic renaissance and help with the ongoing mental health crisis. Nothing in this episode is medical advice and is for informational purposes only.
Trae con la vida, vida de la baila, cura con la guaira, limpia, limpia, taita, vibrando